I mentioned to you guys a couple of days ago that I'm in search of a new favorite fighter. I have to. Frankie Edgar's retiring. And I had people ask me, how did Frankie become your favorite fighter? Now, I've told this story. However, I like to tell this story every couple of years. And I'm going to continue to tell this story every couple of years because I like it and I would like to keep it alive. And Frankie became my favorite fighter. I mean, I had my eye on him, and this guy could box, and he had a big upset at the time, and it was over Sean Shirk, and it was an absolute war, and they went 15 minutes, and got my eye on this guy. And then Frankie could box. Frankie was a wrestler from Rutgers, but he really showed that in the Sean fight. He could box, and Frankie had a combination, just a 1, 2, 3. Your first day of boxing class, your very first day, you will learn what's called a 1, 2, 3. And every day of boxing for the rest of your life, you will throw a 1, 2, 3 every day, never miss. But Frankie had a 1, 2, 3. And in a way that he would step outside and the 2 would come to the body and the 3 would come back upstairs. It's probably the number 1 combination that he ever lands. I've got my eye on Frankie. That's the only point. I'm watching where his skills are at. All right, he goes, beats BJ Penn, he becomes champion of the world. He's still not my favorite fighter. He's a fighter that I like. It's hard to have a favorite fighter, particularly when you're fighting. It's really hard. Because if you got a guy in your weight class, or you got a guy one weight away, where you could go up someday, or this guy could bounce down, however it is, and now you're standing across from him, you have a problem. I had that happen to me one time. It becomes a problem. Okay, I got Frankie. Everything's great, but here's what happened. I had fought. I was competing on the same card as Frankie. Now, Frankie is the main event. None of this story works unless you understand the placement of the card. So I fight. There's then a title fight that's a co-main event. That was Aldo versus Florian, to put in perspective for you guys. And then Frankie is going to be the main event. So after I fight, walking to the back, and there's a young man right on the apron. Now, when I was a kid and used to get to go to what at that time was called WWF, my buddy Justin and I would go to G.I. Joe's, which is who hosted something called Ticketmaster. It's the only place you could get tickets, but we wouldn't buy a ticket until the gal helping us showed us a schematic of the building and explained to us where the apron was. Justin and I wanted to be on that apron. If you're on that apron, you can then touch the guy. The guys, why some of them give you the high five, right? You've seen that in pro wrestling. And other ones, you just reach out and touch them. But it was a big deal, and that's where we wanted to sit. It was the number 1 thrill that we had. This young man, as I'm going to the back, happens to be in that same position. I think you guys can get that. Like when something happened to you, and then you fast forward, and now you're an adult, but you remember it, and you had some kind of a fantasy, you'd love to give it to somebody else. I was just in that kind of a spot. And I saw this young man, and he was all decked out in Tap Out. He got on a Tap Out hat. He's got a hat. I was sponsored by Tap Out and didn't even know. They had wristbands. He's got them on both wrists. And I see this young man, and I stopped, and I said, "Where's your dad?" And this guy spoke up and said, "I'm his dad." And I said to the kid, "Do you want to come in the back?" And the kid nodded, yeah. And I turned to the dad, and I said, "I'll bring him back." I lifted the kid over. I took him into the back. Young man was 11 years old at that time, but we go into the back. So I'm trying to give this kid the moment that my buddy Justin and I dreamed would happen. And I'm just introducing him to the guys. He had a program, and we had a marker, and we're going to each guy. And I'm introducing, the young man is named Ty. So I just keep introducing, "Hey guys, this is my buddy Ty. Hey, this is Ty." And everybody's saying hello to him. And there's all sorts of rooms in the back of the UFC. I mean, eventually you're going to open a door, and that's Dana's room. And eventually you open, and there's the production room. Then you open one, and it's the lock. There's just all sorts of doors. So I'm doing that, and I'm opening doors. But one of them that I opened, that I wanted of if I could go back in time, was Frankie's room. Now, when you're the main event, you get your own locker room. Nobody on the card, everybody gets treated the same, they're all thrown in, but there is a respect shown to the main event. It's just a policy. So Frankie had his own room. So when I opened this, I didn't know that was his room. I didn't know what it was going to lead to. It might have led to a staircase. I have no idea what's in this room. I opened the room. It's Frankie and his team. And they're having a prayer. This is their final, this is one of the important moments that as you visualize a fight, as you're looking forward to a fight and the action and what's going to happen, you'll go through some of the steps, but one of them is that final moment before you make that walk. Another one, Randy Couture was even hypnotized, just to put it in perspective for you. He was hypnotized and under hypnosis worked on when they put Vaseline on his eyes. Because when they put Vaseline on your eyes, you close your eyes. You close your eyes till the Vaseline's done and you open your eyes. But that opening of the eyes was a switch for Randy Couture. Randy used to look so calm walking out there. And he would be very calm when you saw him in the back. Well, the truth was he was by design. He did not come on. He did not become a fighter, and he did not get into the moment until that Vaseline is on, and then the next time he opens his eyes, look out. That was just his thing, right? Everybody's got a thing, but this is a built-in one. That final moment with your team before you go to battle is a private and personal moment. Ty and I barged in on it. I recognized what was happening in way, way, way less than half of a second, and I quickly apologize as Ty and I are backing out the door, and Frankie stops me and says, "Who's this?" And I said, "Hey, man, this is my buddy Ty. We're actually getting guys' autographs. Man, we didn't know you were in here. Best of luck," and we're getting it. Frankie goes, No. He said, "Hey, you come to the show." He started talking to the guy. It was very brief. It's his time to walk. It's very brief. He stops Burt Watson. He stops the UFC so that he can have a quick exchange with this young man named Ty. And he sees that Ty has a book and sees that he has a pen. And Frankie said, I got time to sign that for you. And he did. That's the whole story. Right there. I stop right there. Ty and I back out, and we have to move. We have to move like this. We have to move as Ty and I get the autographs because Frankie and his team have to walk. When I tell you it was time, it was time. And he didn't do it because there was a young man. And he knew all of those things and what that meant. The similar story that I tell you to my buddy Justin and I, we're getting the schematics. We want to reach over and we want to try to touch the wrestlers as they're walking out. Frankie has one of those too. I don't know what it is, but the mere fact that he understood what it was and he stopped what he was doing and made sure he signed that guy's autograph. I know Frankie had one of those moments. I know that he could read the situation, but he's also my favorite fighter. You can't do anything about that. I don't think that there's a story that anybody could tell amongst us that was treated in a certain way that could outdo the one I just did. You might tie it. You might be able to tie me on something like that and go, well, listen what happened to me. And I would listen and I would love to hear it. But this is what happened in this spot. Frankie and I weren't buddies. I didn't have Frankie's phone number. Frankie's married. I don't know what his wife's name is. I mean, just by example, we were just acquainted. This had nothing to do with me. It was about this young man and a situation that Frankie read in the moment. Now, I've told that story before. And at some point after this, well, the young man's dad came back. Reed Harris sees me abduct this person. So Reed goes and gets the dad. He gets the dad and brings him in the back. But the dad stays out of our way. Like, he doesn't come room to room. He doesn't try to insert himself. He stayed back and he waited for his son to be done. But the dad found me. He found me somewhere after this happened. And he just sent me a very beautiful letter and just said what that meant to him. So, all right, we're done. I got my favorite fighter. That's Ty. There's his dad. I got a letter. Everybody's paid off, and off we go. I'm leaving Madison Square Garden. This is 2 years ago. I'm leaving Madison Square Garden. What was the night when I tell you it was 2 years ago? It was the night that Daniel Cormier fought the Black Beast. So they fight at the Garden, and we all walk. We don't get a ride, by example. You don't ride to the Garden if you're with the UFC because the hotel's right across the street. Walk across the street. Try not to jaywalk, and you're back to your room. So I'm doing this real quick walk, and this kid's 19 years old. This 19-year-old kid yells to me, and he says, "You took me in the back one time." And busy in Madison, New York City, people are everywhere and horns honking. I looked right up at him. I said, "Ty?" I knew what his name was, but then that meant something to him. He's like, "Yes, I'm Ty." He was in college now. He was all grown up, and we reconnect in this quick intersection. I get over to say hi to him real fast, but you're kind of in a hurry, right? It's a real hustle and bustle. You get hit by a car. You stay out there too long. Kind of this hustle and bustle. So that was the extent of it, but there's why that's my favorite fighter. You guys asked me that. I know that some of you loyal fans have heard that before, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to hear it again. Every few years, I'm going to bring that up. But I'm also bringing it up because if you have a story that you think can match that, if you had somebody who you admired, who took time to do something kind for you, I'd like to hear about it. And I got a little bit off track there. I'm looking for a new favorite fighter. Now, I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm going to share with you. I got two names that I'm staring at. Everything Michael Chandler's doing, I like. Everything Volkanovski's doing, I admire. And it's a tough one. There's new talent coming up all the time. And I will admit I have a little bit of front runner in me. I will admit that. I'm keeping my eye on the young guys, and I would like somebody that, as a fan, I can be here for a while. I don't want to go through the same pain that I got to go with when Frankie's leaving. But I'm taking a look at Chandler. I'm taking a look at Volkanovski. I don't know that they have this huge shelf life, but boy, they check a lot of boxes I'm interested in.